Yes, let's do this. This session off. Right? Thank you so much for making time. Thank you so much for gracing the summit, and also, of course, also for allowing us to grace your living rooms, your driveways, depending on where you're watching us right now, your hotel rooms. We want to say thank you so much for trusting us. As always, my name is Eugene. And Nangwe, thank you for making time. And of course, this is the summit, and we definitely usually scale the heights to be able to bring you the conversations that matter to all of us. And of course, these conversations are very personal at the point where we need to be able to speak up in terms of the solutions, because we are also solutions focused. If you are okay, we are good to go, and we're ready to start this particular dialogue tonight. And it's a conversation that I believe, from the comments that I've been able to see, and of course from the way we've been able to see people passionate about it, when I asked for the kind of topics you'd like us to be able to discuss, you actually poured out in numbers. And this is the conversation around, why am I still unemployed? This is a very personal question. And of course, I've seen you talk about the constitution of the panelists, and this is very deliberate. I'll tell you why, so stick around. Let's take a look at some of the feedback that we've been receiving. And this conversation tonight is just trying to help us to understand the dynamics around dealing with unemployment. What does it take to deal with unemployment? What does it take to be able to balance the skills that you are trying to get right now and the skills that are needed in the job market? And of course, we'll be able to talk a bit about that. But I'd ask you to tell me, why do you still feel you are still unemployed, despite some of the skills that you have? And of course, I've been seeing some of you share your thoughts. One of you, at Simon Muhire 2 on the X platform, says, 1, inaccessible working environment. 2, teaching and learning process that is unfair to disability community. And then 3, owner's mind and attitudes towards people with disabilities. And then he says we need to add more effort to create job opportunities to all with much attention on disability issues. This is a very, very strong comment. And of course, we want all the potential employers out there to be able to understand this, that of course there are people out there who are able differently. We don't want to even call them people with disability, but able differently, and they can also be able to do what others are able to do. I have engineer Mr. Mfura Stanley at Mr. Emmy Stanley on the X platform. He says the reason why he feels he's still unemployed is 1, nepotism, 2, bribery, students still studying courses that have less or no employment opportunities. And we'll talk a bit about that. And then still having less industries, hence providing less jobs. And then number 5, he says, lack of qualified managers and CEOs in different sectors who lack knowledge of how to increase job opportunities. He gave us a long list, and the 6th point that he mentioned right there is lack of private sectors like banks and other few institutions in providing loans to investing in youth projects that can provide more jobs. And of course, he says agricultural boards still lack sensitizing youth in practicing in agriculture and investing in lots of them. This is very, very interesting. And then we definitely also have this right here. All you need to do to be able to also have your feedback displayed on this particular screen is simply adding the hashtag #TheSummitRW. When you do that, it's going to be easy for us to be able to track your feedback. So every time you tweet and add the hashtag #TheSummitRW, your comments will come up and we'll be able to read them right here, right now. Also, we are live on the RwandaTV YouTube platform, and this is definitely where you can be able to find us. Come over there and be able to go onto the comment section or be able to talk to us on the chat box, and I'll be happy to read your feedback. Let me introduce my panelists. I think you saw them on the poster, but also some of them, you've been able to engage with them in one way or another while you've been looking for a job, and they've also been able to engage with employers with the aim of trying to understand what kind of people are they looking for to be able to fill some of those roles. And this is why it was very important to have them here. We want them to speak from both ends, because they are helping to be able to rope in people who are looking for jobs and link them up with job opportunities. And so they speak to both worlds, the job market and also those in need of jobs, but also even themselves. They've been unemployed for some time. Let them tell us, how did they feel? What has been their experience along those lines? Ladies and gentlemen, Vivans Uweimana, who's actually the CEO of Umurava, thank you so much for making time, my brother.
Okay, thanks.
It's been a long time coming.
Yeah, it has been a long time. So thanks for having me.
And good to see you, sir. And also we have Dorcas Rutunda, also the head of expansion and product development at ITM Holding. A long time coming. Finally, we're here.
We finally made it.
We've been trying to hold this and to have this on this show. Thank you so much also for making this officially a panel and not a manual.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. And of course, we have Oscar Budandi, who's the country manager, Q Sourcing, Savtech. Thank you for making time, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Right. I want us to answer this question. The topic on the screen is a personal question. There are people who actually I want them to be able to have answers coming from us, but also trying to understand why they still remain unemployed despite several attempts to try to be competitive within the job market. And I want us to talk a bit about what they are always told. You don't have the right skill set to be able to take up this role. But someone feels, I'm even overskilled. I have several degrees. I have experience, but I am unemployed, and they want an answer to that question on the screen. I want to start with you, Vivans. Why do you think a lot of us are still unemployed despite having the skills that qualify us to have these jobs?
So, first of all, thank you. I would probably say two simple things. Number one, sometimes you will be unemployed because you don't basically know where those jobs that can fit you are. That's the point number one. And that's something, the reason why I said that it's simple, it's simple, but it's a practice which is simple, but many people do not practice that. And that goes with something which is around, where are the jobs? Sometimes people would not recognize these two important things. The value of networking, because most of the times, if you ask, I would drop a percentage. 85% of the jobs are filled through networking. That's the first comment. And I have seen, especially many young people, not being aware of that practical practice.
So if you're an introvert, this is going to be something you'll miss out on.
Absolutely. So that's the point number one. Point number two, there is a time some of the people will face a general problem. You pass 4 years in the university doing something, but it's outdated on the current job market.
But that's not their mistake. It's
of course,
their fault.
It's not their mistake, but the problem is manageable. Because, again, you are graduating, you are still a young person. If you find it to be now a niche, it's not needed, it's no longer, needed on the current job market, there is a second chance.
You go and spend another 4 years on another career.
No, you can't spend 4 years on another career. Now it's possible to acquire some of the skills through training programs. And you can find 3 months to 12 months, maybe practical training program, which can end up taking you to an internship, apprenticeship, and later you become, employed as well.
So I want you to hold it on that thought, and I want to hear from Dorcas. You've heard what he says, and when you mentioned the aspect of introverts missing out, especially because they don't want to go out to network with people, you kind of shook your head. But I want to hear your thoughts. What could be the reason? Why am I not employed, despite the fact that I have all the skill set? Every time I apply, the message starts with, unfortunately. And before even going far, maybe they're just saying, unfortunately, we didn't respond to you in good time, but we want to congratulate you because you've got the job. But we just switch off because it's a message, it's a line that we all don't want to read. Why am I still unemployed with all these skills?
Let me first of all respectfully disagree with what you just said. If you're an introvert, don't worry. You're not gonna not find a job because you're an introvert. You can perfectly network as an introvert, so that's on the side. People will always ask themselves why they're unemployed, and maybe I can put it into two main reasons. The first being the market, the second being the person themselves. The market, there's a lot of components within the market. There is job availability, there is the economy of wherever you are, your country, your region, there is the skills. or the opportunities that are presented to you in your reach, the access to that. I think we've just read someone who's talking about being a disabled person. You could be very good and very skilled, but the market where you are does not accommodate your disability, for example, and that would be the reason why you're unemployed. And then number two now, when it comes to the job seeker themselves, why they're unemployed, there could be a skills gap. I agree with Vives on that point to say that you could learn something in university that's not necessarily relevant to the current market where you are, and therefore you keep seeking jobs and you're a mismatch all the time. But you could also exactly not have access to information, to the right people. So there's many reasons, and I like the question because when someone starts to ask themselves that question, from the answers they can know what to do.
They can know what to do.
To be employed.
And so in this particular case, before I go to Oscar, I want you just to respond to us about that fear. If I don't go out, if I don't network so much, if probably I had a bad experience going out, everywhere I go for networking, maybe people want to take advantage of me, they turn it into other things, which made me so demoralized. I don't want to keep going out there. Or I don't even have the money to go out and network. How then would be, what tips, what kind of skill set would you share with people who can network maybe on a budget or on an easy way?
I have a favorite word. I think it's from the Bible where I think God asked like Moses, what do you have? What do you have in your hands? So my tip would be, what do you have? What do you have access to? Let's start with maybe something big like a telephone, a smartphone. Do you have access to internet? And if not, there are places with free Wi-Fi where you could use that to scroll through different job platforms and find the different opportunities that they have. What else do you have? Do you have a university degree? Who did you go to school with? Who were your previous professors? Where are they right now? What are they doing? Can you reach out to one of them and let them know? Where are you? Which district are you in? Which region are you in? What are the local community? What is the local community doing? What is the government putting in place? What's going on in your area? So start from where you are on a budget. So don't go too far. Go to Murenje, Mudugudu, somewhere very near you, and figure out what is happening. What are the different opportunities that are there? That's a starting point. But I think it's always demoralizing and discouraging when you're trying to find things that are out of your reach, for example, or things that you cannot easily access. So it's easily, but as a first step, of course you'll get there as well, but as a first step, start where you are.
The low-hanging fruits.
Yes, look around, and even if it could be a volunteering opportunity. I think yesterday there was a big event where they were celebrating national volunteers, and it's very impressive what they were able to achieve, and that gives you so much work experience, even though there was no contract involved or a 9-to-5, but those are the kind of opportunities that are right across your street, right outside your door, that you can do without necessarily spending that much or knowing big people out there.
You start with the low-hanging fruits. Oscar, I want to combine the two thoughts that I've just had when we started this conversation. Now we're talking about a person who has been networking. You never miss them out. Everywhere you go, they are there, like a telco company that I will not mention here today. They have relatives, they have people who have gone to school with them, they have people they know who they've tried to reach out to, but still, it's not working. And some even promised, just send me your CV. You know those uncles who say that. Just send me your CV, and then they disappear. And they've tried even with the low-hanging fruits, but still they're not employed, and they're still asking, why is it that I'm still unemployed up to now? What could be the reason? What could be the cause? What could be the missing link?
Yeah, thanks, Agent. I think my colleagues just mentioned a few points that I think I would agree with. But also to shed more light. I think, first of all, it's actually, like she said, it's a good question to ask yourself. Once you start asking yourself, why am I not employed? It's a good start. But to make it broader, I think there's a number of prayers for someone to have a job, for someone to be employed. There's the government, there's the institutions, there's employers, private sector. There's a bigger part of you and your support system. And I think the reason, instead of however much you're asking yourself, why am I not getting a job?
Yeah.
I think the bigger part is, what are you doing at that very moment when the job is not yet there? Because there will always be some waiting, and there will always be some gaps, even when you're employed, that sometimes you're employed, but between jobs, sometimes there is a gap. But to me, I think there's an important element of, when you're not employed, what are you doing that time? Because that time of when you're not employed is as important also in terms of equipping you, because the reasons of why you're not employed that my colleagues mentioned, of whether it's a mismatch, or whether the opportunities are not yet there, or whether the time is not right yet, using that time to equip yourself more for the opportunities that could be available, those that could be in the pipeline, is very important.
Right. So you're saying don't just sit there, try to do something.
Absolutely.
Right. Favens, I want to come back to a point you mentioned earlier on, that sometimes the reason why you're still not employed is because you've dwelt on a course that is no longer needed within the job market.
Yes.
It's difficult to tell which course is needed or not needed, no? Especially if we have to go through a school curriculum that has been set out and we can't do anything about it. So as you sit out here within the entrepreneurial space, what sort of advice are you giving that person who's still asking themselves this question, why am I still not employed? In terms of the skill set that the job market is needing today, where do they get to know what is going to be the job of the future?
Okay, very good. So thank you for that. What, I have realized, it has been, 3 years doing what we are doing at Burava. And for us, the area we tackled, we have been looking at really the in-demand skills for the digital economy. But the more time we talk to many employers, the more time we talk to, young people graduating, we have already even seen that either be it in energy, be it in finance, be it in all of these sectors, even agriculture, you will find that, again, it is still being difficult to find the good skill sets when it comes, especially to African market, and even, of course, including Rwanda, where we are. But there are a few things I can advise many young people. The point number one will always be, when you are in school, start balancing what you are studying with the practical implementation around it. I would give you my example. The time I was in my university, that's why I started to get multiple jobs. The reason why it was simple. There were two scenarios. Scenario number one was for me to start relating what I have been acquiring with what can I use these skills to do. That was the point number one. Point number two, I was doing business management in my university, but I ended up saying, you know what, this thing tends to be boring a bit. They also venture into programming or data analysis. So I did the practices.
You want problems.
Absolutely. So I chose to venture into data analysis. After 6 months doing the data analysis, I started to get a bunch of jobs, because in the data analysis, there are a lot of gigs that are coming every time. So, but the whole point is simple. How would you rate it with what can you do with the practice? So once you start really asking yourself, challenging yourself to understand how can I use it, that's why you will come to discover, you know what, this thing is not needed, by the way. I think I can figure out, and then I go into this line. The point, another point which will flow, which I think many young people, I really, request everyone to do, the time you are still in the university, is to try two things. Dorcas mentioned something around the volunteering. We have seen many young people coming to volunteer with us at Murava, and then after 3 months, 6 months, we see them landing a big opportunity. That's a kind of really practical example. We want to see them as well, as long as you can get the transport. As long as you can get the transport, try to see the way you start your academic internships as early as you can.
As early as you can.
When you start as early as you can, I bet you will graduate with a job, or you are really ready with what you wanted to do. And this, again, is applicable to entrepreneurship space. If you wanted to venture into entrepreneurship, you start to work on your idea as early as you can. Because when you start, the time you are in the university, you get, again, practical insights to say, hey, you know what? I'm in love of this idea, but I can't handle it now. Let me first go to acquire some experiences, some expertise, and then I will come back to it. That's, again, once it fails, you are still in the university, you are still young, that's a good thing. Then to say that, okay, now I'm failing at this moment, let me go and acquire the skills, then I will do something in the future. Is start as early as you can, relate the skills with practical scenarios, and then I'm always saying this, social media are becoming free universities. Becoming free universities, this means social media now are availing whatever you want to learn, whatever you want to know, trending. So then from there, that's basically the journey to start. The right thing is information, and ichambere ni amakuru. That's how.
Yes. I like that, and I think what I want to ask this, and I'm going to ask this to Dorcas, is because you also alluded to the fact, especially on the aspect of volunteering, and I know of young people who have volunteered for almost half of their life, and they're still asking the same question on the screen right now: why am I still unemployed? They volunteer until it now looks like now they're being used. So how do we deal with this? I mean, even from a policy perspective, I know labor laws are very clear. The number of months and period that someone can be an intern to the point where they can become volunteers, and when you need to hire them. We have those who have done everything that Vivance has mentioned, but they still have that question on the screen.
Well, that's quite a tricky situation because, like I said, volunteering is a means to an end, but not an end itself. So it should never be approached as my career is at volunteering. It's more an activity that you do with purpose. You have a specific goal. Why are you volunteering exactly where you're volunteering? Is it because that's the next thing that's the closest to you? What do you want to get from there? What do you want to learn? What do you want to become? Because at the end of the day, even when we talk about employment, skills and all, it's all about what is a person. Because in employment, I don't know, maybe this it needs to sound right, but the product is the person. Their talent, their ability, their knowledge, their experience, the capacities, the skills that they have, and what they can produce with that. That's what employers are seeking. That's what investors are seeking in entrepreneurship and venture capital. So when you're volunteering or when you're interning, you need to remember that the product is you. So as a product, where are you going? It's like going into a factory. So is it to get packaged? Which kind of package? Are you going to learn communication skills? Are you going to learn writing skills? Are you going to learn leadership? What is it? Because the good thing about learning is, yes, it never ends, but it also has cycles. So you learn one thing and it's done, that specific thing, and then you can go and learn another. So if you're going somewhere and you say, oh, this place, it's not really much, it's not what I'm studying, but I want to learn how to write because they make me write letters. And you've drafted all the letters there could ever be. You know it's time. You need to go. You could
move
even
to another place.
You would rather. And the thing about it, and when you actually just are aware, is that at some point you realize, I can sell this. You can end up becoming, you know, those people they used to say at university who actually write thesis for a living and they get money in exchange. You can even become that, because once you've mastered a skill, now you have something of value, then you can go to the marketplace. You are the product now. So that's the trick in there.
Right. I like the fact that the item here is you are the product. It's not the company that you're volunteering for that you need to be building so much. As much as you invest your volunteering time, you have to be building you as well. I think that's very important. I want to understand, Oscar, especially from Q sourcing. When clients reach out to you and they're looking for talent, now let's talk about the dynamics involved in the headaches or the smooth sailing, for lack of a better word. And this, I think all of you will be able to answer this particular question. What is the trend? What are you hearing on the ground? What is the job market saying vis-a-vis the kind of people that you present to them? Look, we've scouted around, we sat down with these ones, and we present you this list of people for you to choose from. What is the trend? What are they saying?
It's a good question. I think we have to appreciate, again, the journey. I think, as you mentioned it specifically for key sourcing, we've been in the market for the last 15 years. So the first 5 years is very different from right now how things are. One, it would be unfortunate if we don't give credit to the key players that have played that part, because I think there was a phase where we knew that in the market we are hiring expatriates from either different countries across Africa or in the neighboring countries, from the neighboring countries.
Because you couldn't find the right skill set for that.
So before I reach to how right now it is, I think it's been a very interesting journey for the last how many years, at least over 10 years that I've been in the market, involved in what clients are looking for. And I must say, what will employers, all employers, what they are looking at is that they are looking at someone who will come to add value to what they are doing. Or is it more about productivity? Is it increasing their sales? Is it increasing their quality? And at the end of the day, also help them achieve their goals. But what are they saying in terms vis-a-vis the people that they are getting? And also in line with the major topic that we are having of unemployment. I think no employer wants, ideally, they do not want to have someone who they will come to train for 6 months. Ideally, an employer will want to have someone who will come and hit the ground running. But I think it would be a bit not fair if, because we are all stakeholders in this market, so if every company think that they will get someone who will hit the ground running, then clearly we are not being understanding to the institutions that maybe are producing these people, that to some extent these people need to be trained, or at least that's why after all there is even in our contracts have probation and everything. So yes, employers want ready people. We are helping to bring that, to close that gap. But I think the key element which we kind of already done is that the gap between what employers are looking for and what we are getting out of institutions is that no one should feel like, you know what, I graduated and I'm ready for a certain job. Or now I'm at a job and I feel like this is good. There have to be an element of continuous learning. There have to be an element of upskilling that is continuous, because the moment you feel like you're good at what you do, then something wrong is going to happen, or something wrong is actually happening. So what is happening at the moment is that there have been good progress, and I think as we discuss further, we'll see even around those numbers of the things that have happened in terms of some professionals that we didn't have the market. I believe there have been significant progress in what employers are getting at the moment compared with what they were getting 15 years ago. And I think the gap that is still there is actually a big part is on the people who are the employees or the staff, individuals, on upskilling themselves and on continuous learning and adapting to change, because they will definitely, each and everyone in whatever place they are in, they have to adapt to change. A good example is a few years ago during COVID, a lot of things changed in our workplaces, and one had to make effort to still be relevant to your employer, because otherwise you would not be fit.
Right. So what you're saying, also part of the reason why you are still unemployed is you have refused, or you are not actually adapting to the new changes that are happening within the job market. At ITM Holding, I want to understand also, especially when it comes to offering the solution. Yes, the job market says, particularly private sector, say we want ready people. We are not here to baby anyone. We're in the business of profits, and if I'm going to spend time training you, why did you go to school? So let's talk a bit about that. How can we fix this challenge? How can we incentivize even the private sector? I know of situations where now, there is even some money being given to certain private institutions to be able to take up certain interns. So you even incentivize, you're told per intern that you take, this amount is going to be paid, and we've seen that happen in several jurisdictions, not just here in Rwanda. Is this the direction we should take? What should we do, especially for those who want that internship, but the job market is saying we don't have time for you?
Yeah, I understand, and I have almost a simplistic approach when people ask, what is the solution to youth unemployment? And the solution is jobs for youth. Very simple as that. And like you said, all the players have to be ready to put the money where their mouths are, to be able to say, if we want to empower the youth, if we want to them to have jobs and experience, we need to create jobs and pay them for it. Not volunteering, not just internships, but actually remuneration. So ITM Holding being a group of companies across Africa and having an HR branch that is the main, but other also companies, what we've actually committed to do is to create exactly that, jobs for young people to be able to work and get remunerated and grow very fast. So it's one of the things that to me, I believe it requires intentionality. You don't just, like you said, an employer that is focused on, I'm making money, are you making me money? If not, I don't want you. You have to be more intentional to say, you're not making me money, but I am investing in you, because if I'm investing in the youth, I'm investing in the future of this country and this economy.
Right.
And at the end of the day, it's a long game, but it will benefit me in some way. So we need to invest in the youth. We need to give them a chance. We need to bring an intern that doesn't know how to write an email, that's never had an email, and teach them how to write that email. I know it's a hard pill to swallow for the private sector. That's why I like to consider ITM as a bit of both worlds, where we can become the strict parent, but also the benevolent one that says, you know, I understand profit has to be made, but I also understand if I do not invest in this, then there is no profit to be made in the long run. So I better do it now. And all employers need to understand this. If you want to be sustainable in the next 20 years, all your executives will be retiring by then. So who are you preparing next? So, and the good thing, I don't think it's just our institutions. There's so many now institutions that are developing academies as well, where they're trying to groom young people into the profession so that they can have room to make mistakes. There's a difference, however, in an actual job where you're expected, you have KPIs, you have very strict results that are expected of you, but then there's like programs that are specifically allowing you to make mistakes. Because that's not, you can't have both. So those programs have to be intentional. They require finances, which means all the parties at hand need to actually put in the money, but it's giving space to say, go into work, but you're not alone. So you come back, you tell me, why did you not do this well? Why did you not understand what I told you? And then I will teach you, and then next time you'll do better and better and better, and until I say, now you're ready, here's your KPI. You're going to be asked about it. So there's that investment part that is very, very important. And I personally believe it's our only way. It's our only way. Yes.
And I want to pick up on that, especially on those young people who've given their time, they've been there, blood and sweat, and sometimes even doing more and even better than those on the payroll, because they really, really want this. But they're still asking that same question on the screen, Vivans. Why am I still not employed? We see people leave this company, but they still just bring new ones. And I've been here, and they do even more. What can be done? I still want to go back to what you'd advocate for from a policy perspective, even inspections, labor inspections, and all those kind of things. What more can be done so that these people can be able to earn from their blood and sweat?
So thank you. For that one, for us, we don't have a big experience on the market. But for us, what we do, we mainly focus on the skills and the jobs that are result-driven. And it's possible sometimes to track how are you performing, and how is your performance aligned with the company goals and objectives. Sometimes at some point, there are some organizations that will have those standards. People are always claiming that I'm performing well, but I'm not getting a promotion. Or sometimes I'm performing very well, but I'm seeing people coming. But again, we should come back to a question here, where we know that there are some organizations that will hire people in a just, I would call it informal way. You just meet someone, you get a job. You meet someone, you get a job. Sometimes what those people are coming to do, they will disappoint you. Oh, the way you hired them, that's how you are going to hire the others, right? So I'm not going to talk more about the personal things involved, but people listening, watching are aware of this scenario.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you will be pushed away or you will be fired because even you don't have a mistake, but you are fired again. It's that informal hiring practice and the process which is there. But again, what we would always advocate, starting from someone who is in the job, the employee or the job seeker, is that most of the times it's visible and feasible to see that I'm in a wrong environment. And when you are in a wrong environment, sometimes to grow, is not easy. There are some people who can survive tough environment for 1 year, 2 years, but the others who can't survive. So sometimes a better way is balance working, but also looking for other opportunities so that you can find the good environment. Because at the end of the day, you will not always find the environment that you want or that you like. And you will never always have the boss that you basically like or even love, or who will do the things that you want to do. But again, looking at the policy perspective, as you have mentioned, is that sometimes people who face problems very well are those people who are really living the problems. Then sometimes this is something we tend to highlight, is that the policy makers, right, should always work closely with private institutions that are helping them to basically implement the policy that they are working on, making sure that you check with them, because at the end of the day, if you are the policy maker, you will design a policy to support an employment issue because you really understand
it.
You will design a good policy to boost jobs creation because you are on the field and you are really understanding the practical insight and the real insights from the ground.
The challenges on the ground.
That's what I can share on that.
Okay, I want us to bring in our viewers who are watching us, and they've been sending their feedback. And interesting that Vivance is advising that as you intern, as you volunteer, use that internet to look for other places if you're not happy with where you are. Right, so I have Michael, a very good friend. Michael is saying there is more to what those folks are talking about on a global scale. This is what he says. And he says the environment is wrong, time is of essence, the country is still growing, GDP per capita. You have very high-skilled youth with masters and PhD driving cabs, or either travel abroad and they migrate to other countries where skills are valued. Either the government or the private sector still give low salaries that also don't match the cost of living. This is a very important point that Michael brings on board, that we have people who even have that job, but it is not decent work. It is not a job that they can be able to go home and say, look, I toiled, and this is worth what I actually worked so hard for. I'll come back for us to answer that. But I have a good friend also, President Shalin Chikomo. He says, I'm sure the young and unemployed graduates are rubbing their heads, seeing the panel crowded with the employers and the happily employed talking about their problem. And he says, diversity of opinion is everything. I know you can do this. Season 2, let's hear from the unemployed. And this is what I'll say. It's very important and it's very true. But this show is not just about the panelists here. This show is for everybody, including those who are employed and the unemployed. You feel free to share your thoughts, and definitely we want to hear over there. And Chalin says, a great subject indeed. And of course, he speaks about those who are unemployed also need to be able to share their thoughts on this particular issue. I like this particular comment right there. And I want us to go back on that particular issue of the aspect of the low, remuneration. And we've seen even countries where their heads of states are actually advocating for them to go abroad and transfer the labor out because probably the jobs are not enough within their jurisdiction. Is this a solution? Should we all start saying, look, I think this market is not enough for us, let's ship out, let's go out?
No, I wouldn't think that would be the solution, and even if it would be a solution, it would be a very short-term solution, which wouldn't really solve the big problem. I still want to give credit to specifically our government, I think they have made significant progress in addressing some gaps. One of the key partners that HR firms like us work with is the Institute of Migration, and they have something called occupational demand list. So this occupational demand list defines the categories of people or skills that they can accommodate to have expatriates in Rwanda for. Let's say you have a big industry you're setting up here, and they will say, let's say you need an engineer who have worked on a certain element. Maybe we've not done that in Rwanda, so they will accommodate that a company can have 3 expatriates, but they will make emphasis that you have to hire a certain level of locals this extent. Meaning they are making effort, because otherwise, if you allow a company from somewhere to come here and bring their labor maybe from that side, maybe they could bring all of them 70% or something. So there's that there is some progress that is being done. Second, in terms of remuneration, we are seeing the movement that is happening with Kigali International Finance Center, where they are working. We recently had a very interesting partnership with KFC, with university, with Coventry University, with a local research company to do a survey and see what are the gaps. Why are we hiring people and you have someone for 3 months and then someone takes them for the next 1 year, and the retention is not happening, or the turnover is very quick, because the bigger part being that every time that someone is at a job and they add 100,000, they are moving because the cost of living is at a certain level. So analyzing the gaps, what are the gaps that is creating this element that even those who are employed, maybe they are not happy or they are not satisfied. And I think, to me, or even on a number of cases that we've faced, is that they also need to have an element that we are not only looking at Rwanda as the only market. It is important that we get to know that we have, that's why we are in these cooperations and collaborations. There is an East African community. It's important that a Rwandan is able to compete with Kenyans and get a job in Nairobi. It's important to know that when you're at a university right now, that the only job you're not going to compete is our local banks, that you're able to compete with banks in Tanzania, with banks in Egypt, and get a job there. So, yes, there is a role that government is doing and is supposed to do. There's a role that other key stakeholders are trying to do, like those I mentioned. Right now, the occupational demand list is being revised to ensure that they see that 10 years ago we needed maybe accountants from our neighboring countries, but now we've crossed that gap, that we have a number of CPA graduates from Rwanda, but also us as those people seeking for jobs. It's not like I don't understand that people are struggling maybe with the packages that they're getting, but are we making effort to ensure that we are able to compete even for the jobs that are there, that we are able to beat those that would be coming, or you are even able to compete with our players in the region.
Right. And of course, Dorcas, as well, on the same aspect of the money being too low, and the argument being that's the market rate. And if you ask for $4,000 or $5,000, you're told, hey, even some of our cabinet ministers don't earn that. Who are you? Because this is a job market rate that we pay such people. And that also somehow discourages people from even seeking certain careers, because there's literally not enough. Will there be a scenario where we should have a national dialogue on regulating the pay within the private space? What should happen in this case when you're actually negotiating pay? Because your client will tell you, I need people of this caliber and this is my budget. But you know that budget is just too low for such a job. How do you handle that?
I agree with Oscar to a certain degree, because there's so many factors that create that salary, for example. I think in Rwanda we do not have specifically like a strict regulation on minimum wage.
Yeah.
We do have very strong labor regulations on employee rights and all, but we do not have, for example, a minimum wage. We don't have hourly wages like maybe some Western countries. But again, this is now a multidimensional problem where it's about where the economy is, it's about what's available, it's about which skill set, like, you know, basics of economy, when there's, you know, high demand, and then there's high value in that. So you will find, for example, specific jobs that are paying way higher, and these that we find essential jobs that are just paying very low wages. So that is a complex aspect that has a lot of players in place. And like you said, I think there's a lot of efforts that are being made to balance, to bring equity about. And this is something that is not done overnight. It takes quite a journey. We are on a journey. I like to say that we are quite a young country. We're doing very well, but we're coming from, you know, from far. So we still have a journey. But for me, I would rather address the person themselves. I don't think anyone should ever limit themselves because of the market where they are. We live in a digital era where you can work from where you are, and you can work for anyone across the globe. So if you feel like the current market where you are is not valuing you, you don't necessarily have to leave it. You know, there are some instances where you could work remotely for another company that will pay you something that you feel is much better for you, and you'll be able to create that. And I think we are at a point where the African continent has a lot to offer to the global market. In terms of talent, we have the youngest population. We have very dynamic people that are ready. We are flexible enough because of the different challenges that we face as a continent. So you can leverage that and find something else. If you feel like there's more for you, then look for that more. Yes. Do not limit yourself to say, oh, this is all they're paying, therefore I'm giving up. No. You know, if you feel this is not enough for you, then there should be, or create something then. Become entrepreneur like Vivens.
Maybe someone listening will say that's easier said than done.
I agree.
We cannot all be Vivans, we cannot all be entrepreneurs. They want us to create our own jobs. We cannot do that. Vivens, I want to hear your thoughts on that. Let's talk solutions now. Just quick tips. Where can we find these opportunities? Where do you think young people, those who are looking for jobs, have not been looking at? And if you would recommend them to look at that, just very briefly.
I will say a few things, probably three things. Number one, I would start from Umurava's perspective, because what we are setting up, it's basically to get a talent marketplace platform that can enable, you know, anyone from anywhere to work together. I'm saying anyone with the job, an employer, anyone with the skills, the employee or the expert who is willing to offer his or her skills to a certain scope of work or a project. And we are bringing two elements now. Number one is we are basically encouraging many young people to start building freelancing careers. These people who will always be there to do the projects, or I'm skilled in ABCDF, instead of sitting with my skills, let me start to offer the service from the skills that I understand. Because at some point, when you have a full-time job, which is paying a little amount of money, but you know that you will do the other 2 gigs per month, then you are basically getting the budget that you want. The second point that Dorcas mentioned is that we are basically looking at the way of how do we supply many African talents to global markets. And to do this, the priority is not to send them there. The priority is to create an infrastructure and an environment which can enable these companies to build their remote workforces here in Africa. And at Umurava, we have seen many instances. They pay a lot of money. These American and European companies are paying many Africans good salaries, which now show that it's really possible due to the digital era that we are currently living in. The last point will come to be, I'm from a startup perspective, where most of the startups will not get salaries like the ones the corporates can pay, but startups are really looking for productive and innovative people. Yeah. And there is a term called the fractional employment, where if I'm an employee, I can work for 2 companies. I'm paid the little amount of money in one company, I'm paid another one, but I'm allowed to have schedules that can allow me to serve both. Let's suppose one company is paying me 200,000 francs per month, another one 300. Then we discuss. I have these skill sets, I will be able to deliver on what you will tell me to deliver. Then work for 2 companies, I survive very well, and then I give you my expertise. So, and then that's something also.
It will take a very understanding employer to allow that.
So some employers now understand, because now the employers are not caring much about come to my office, etc. It's good to design, let me dedicate 20 hours per week. This is how I will be performing. Of course, where it is required to show up on a demand, apart from those hours you can show up. But for the employers who are really looking for good, serious people, as well, they would now understand, because at the end of the day, it's all about the results and the outcomes.
Not seeing you physically.
Absolutely.
Dorcas, solutions. Where do we go from here? If there's anything that you'd leave that viewer who still has that question on the screen, what are those things that you'd tell them in terms of tips, what to do or how to deal with that?
Know yourself. Again, you're the product. So what do you have? What do you know? What should you know? And start from there. And all of us here, by the way, the organizations we represent have job opportunities. Just look at the trend, look at what's going on. There's a lot of initiatives that even the government, I think there is the Quora platform, where there's just like, it's a government platform that puts people out there, like all the jobs are there, everything. This is a partnership from the RDB Skills Office, and they've reached out to all of us to be able to do that. And look beyond even the country where you are, and look beyond to say, what am I giving out? What is it of value that I'm giving? So start from there. But also there's something that I need to acknowledge, that job hunting is a very hard process. It affects you mentally, because it's affecting your finances, family situations, and also it's not easy. And no one says it will be. So hang in there. Do not give up. Sometimes it will take 40 applications. It's very hard. It's a harsh reality, but it's a fact. But do not give up. Maybe the 41st is gonna be the one. So keep pushing at it. You don't know where the next opportunity will come, but if you stop looking, then it will never come. So keep pushing. Look at different ways, areas, but do not stop.
Do not stop.
Yes.
I think that should be very important. Especially, I want to talk a bit about the aspect of knowing who to trust, especially this job offer platforms, because I know of people who are now tired. Last time they were scammed. The other time, this is just a lie. You know, they already know who they want to hire. How do I get to know if I need to fix this question on the screen? What do I do to be able to know that this is a legitimate post? This is actually definitely something that is fair, free, and I'm able to actually compete just like any other person. Maybe. Thanks,
Eugene. I think I just want to first touch base on the tip that you mentioned earlier before I address this. I think it's important for all players in the market see how the country is positioning itself. Right now, we might not be a high-selling country in terms of minerals, but everyone rates us very highly in how we host our visitors in terms of conference services and tech, and I think whether you are at the university, whether you are at a certain job, or whether you're seeking for a job, it's important to always position yourself in terms of where the country is heading or how the country is positioning itself. Today, I'll just use an example. Today we had drove outside Kigali in Rwanda to meet a client. And on our way, we're like, let's have a lunch at a nearby place. And myself and my colleagues were all impressed by a lady who served us at a coffee shop, by the way how she was able to attend to us, and she was able to go to different, like the things that we were asking for, they were in different places. But instead of telling us that you can go and get this the other place and you can later go this place,
she consolidated.
Told us you can stay here, I will attend you in all ways. And she was coming, she was speaking good English, because I was with some people, maybe we were not able to speak in Rwanda, and we are all impressed. First of all, to some extent, you have this mindset that maybe if I'm out of Kigali, I won't meet someone who is able to offer this good customer care. But I don't think that one had to make any significant word. It's about that person that she's positioning herself. I was so keen, and I think it's important that everyone who is in the market also be able to give credit where people are doing a good job. If someone you've met someone who's doing good, appreciate them, tell them what they are doing well so that it motivates them. I was looking at that and I'm like, she can now, if someone from Radisson was passing by here, he would be very happy to say, this person, we can use this person at our front desk because they will attend to our visitors in one way or another. But then coming to what are we supposed to be doing in terms of that? I think it's companies or all employers need to be a bit selfless. It would be unfortunate if you have volunteers at your place and then you take advantage of them that they work beyond certain months. I think we've all been unemployed at a certain stage. I don't want us to give an impression the people outside there, they see here, they're like, oh, these ones have reached there, or they are making decisions and it's easy for them. No, we understand it's very difficult. Like Dorcas was saying, it's difficult to seek for a job. But it's important that in any position you are, you're trying to align and say, these are the opportunities available, this is where we need to try. We should not be at this moment the soft skill element. The universities might not polish someone in terms of let's say how they're able to
speak publicly,
or to those basic soft skills, because it's important. Even if someone is a plumber, you will enjoy working with a plumber who is able to explain to you what is the cause and how you're able to maintain something like that. So those soft skills, they don't necessarily have to teach all of them. It's upon you. You have a chance that the government is offering technology, internet everywhere. Go on YouTube. Learn some skills on how you can improve your speaking skills or how you engage people. Do some e-learning courses. There are a number of e-learning courses. At Key Sourcing, what we've done, and I think this gap that we're even mentioning right now, this gap has been there for some years, but it's how you adapt. 5 years in the market as Key Sourcing, we realized that the people that we are pressing, people are saying, oh, we are requesting you to hire this engineer, but once this engineer is here, sometimes we find that they are not certified globally, yet the partners we are working with, they are global partners. So we introduced a sister company purely focused on assessing and certifying. Because you have a welder who has done a job for 10 years, but they don't have a paper to certify that they actually are a good welder. So, but they have all the knowledge and the skills to do it. So how you assess that and then you give them a certification that is internationally recognized is very important. Something that we've done, and I see it closing a significant gap.
Right. I'm being told it's time for us to part, and it's always the shortest 1 hour. It flies so fast, and this is what I want to promise. If you have been tammacking, we call it to tarmac, to actually look for a job for a long time, and you feel you have everything that it takes for you to actually get that particular job, I want to request you to just reach out. The next installment of this conversation, like you've also said, I want to hear your stories. I want to hear what is it that you have done that you feel you qualify for a job. You never know, from this panel you'll be able to actually get a job or get a way of getting out of that particular situation that you're in. Please reach out at I'm Eugene Anangwe on the X platform, and I'll be able to actually get in touch with you. Let us hear your story. Tell me what your story is. How long have you been looking for this job? What has been your situation? And I'll definitely be able to invite you here on this panel, and we'll have this conversation. Steve Joe? So, we want to go now. But thank you. The conversation does not end. It continues on social platforms, and we'll also have another installment right here to answer that question on the screen. We'll see you again next time, same place. Thank you to our panelists. Murakoze Chane, and I want us to leave now.